At what point do you say, man, I'm profiting a lot, but we're not growing at all, and I'm stuck in the business, and it's a really, really, really high paid job is basically what I've got, right? That's what a lot of people as agents or investors are doing, is your profit's really good, but your growth rate might not be amazing. So you can then take your profits, put them into hiring people, which is going to help you get your growth rate, but also it's going to help you get your growth rate up, not all on your shoulders.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Carrot Cast. Now, the Carrot Cast, we're usually diving in doing interviews with amazing real estate investors, amazing real estate agents. Now, in these episodes, every Thursday, they're the Trevor Truck Talks, where you get to hear behind the scenes of the mindset shifts I'm going through as a CEO of one of the fastest growing companies in America, and the mindset shifts you can take to run your business and win back your freedom as well. Let's dive into this episode.
What's up, y'all? I've got a concept I want to propose. I want to talk about with the Carrot community here. So I head in the office here, and guys, Carrot Campers are flying in here in a few days, which I'm extremely excited about. We've got our first four-time or five-time returner. Keith Sant's coming back. We've got other returners. Adam Mitchell down in Dallas, Texas. Lance Doty. What's up, guys? Pumped to see you guys back, and other returners as well. Bo Hollis is coming back. Guys, we have such a great crew. I'm excited. But I want to talk about something in the software world that I think can really, really apply to any business out there. And as we're looking at, how do you balance growth versus profits in your business? How do you know what percentage you're supposed to grow your business versus how much you should profit and what's healthy? And as we've been kind of wrapping up this year, right when I'm recording this, it's 2021. When we're wrapping up this year, we're kind of looking at the year and how did it go towards plan? And this year was kind of it's been a reset year for us. We still had an amazing year. We did grow the business, which is awesome. We grew the team more than we ever have before. We're about 50 full-time employees now. Really ramping up for innovation, innovating the product even more heavily. And finding ways to unblock me, make me not the bottleneck in the company. But as we're looking at 2021, not everything fully went as planned. Traditionally we would grow the company, and I'm going to be transparent with you guys on this stuff. We'd grow the company 30% plus a year. Some years we grew 300% a year. Which isn't easy to maintain. Of course, it's really hard to maintain a 50% or more growth per year. One bit of advice I heard years ago was if you're growing your company more than 50% a year, I'd even say it's more than 40% a year, things are falling off. Like things are falling apart every 6 months. You're always having to fix communication cadences. You're having to fix process and everything that you thought that worked before doesn't work now, or your marketing and sales breaks, 2 cycles in because now you need more marketing and better sales close ratio or better leaders and things like that. So it gets tough. It gets tricky. And so we maintain that. We're 7.5, 8 years into the business, and we've maintained an over 30% growth rate every single year in this company. And as we're kind of looking at what's next, and I've talked about that struggle that I had in other podcasts. I talked about the podcast where we talked about should we sell the company, and that's to put your minds at ease. That's not happening. Okay, it's not happening. We love what we're doing. We love our mission more than ever. Once we lengthened the runway and really nailed our vision for the next phase of the company. But it doesn't make things any easier. So here's what's on my mind as we're heading into the next year, as we're heading to the planning the next year. And the reason I bring up those numbers, now you might say, well, how is this relevant to me as an agent, or how is this relevant to me as an investor? It's insanely relevant, okay? Because a business needs to provide you, at the end of the day, it needs to provide income. It needs to provide profit, okay? A business that has no profit is a business that's really, really hard to grow sustainably for the long time. It's hard to enjoy too. A business that has no profit, it better have a really fast growth rate. Because if the growth rate is fast and your profit's low, that's fine for a period of time, because it means you're putting the money back into growth of the business so that you can get up to a certain level, or that you can grow the business revenue up to a certain point to where you can hire the right people to pull you out of it. and then you can scale up profits later, or are you looking for an exit? If you're in a type of a business where EBITDA or earnings before taxes, interest, things like that, if that is less important for the value of the company, like software as an example, software really isn't valued based on the profit of the company much. It's more valued at the growth rate of the company and the top line revenue, which is kind of wild, right? But it makes sense because it's recurring income. If you look at rental properties or property management companies, things like that, they're not going to be valued at, like a rental property company is not going to be valued at the value of the real estate, right? It's going to be valued at the income that is being brought in to the company, but it's also not going to be valued at your gross rents. It's going to be valued at the net operating income, a multiple of that, right? So figure out what business you're in, and then how the business is valued, and then determine, are you looking to sell the company sometime soon, let's say the next 3 to 5 years, or are you looking to hold the company for a long time and find a way to make it really profitable and then pull yourself out of the parts you don't like? That's a key decision to make sure that you're really dialing in your plan for the next year, because I hadn't been clear on that the last couple of years. So we'd continue a really fast growth rate and kept profits strong. We did dial profits down to build a team, but it makes things a little bit stressful. Right? It can make things stressful. Most of my days are not stressful, but there's that little edge on there on the monthly basis where you go, we're doing amazing, but at what point do we say this growth is fast enough and we dial growth back and dial profits up? Right? At what point do we say that, or vice versa? At what point do you say, man, I'm profiting a lot, but we're not growing at all, and I'm stuck in the business, and it's a really, really, really high paid job is basically what I've got, right? That's what a lot of people as agents or investors are doing, is your profit's really good, but your growth rate might not be amazing. So you can then take your profits, put them into hiring people, which is going to help you get your growth rate, but also it's going to help you get your growth rate up, not all on your shoulders. So there's something in the software world called the rule of 40, or the rule of 60, I guess, if you're under 10 million in revenue. Rule of 40 is kind of more if you're over 10 million in revenue. How does this apply to an agent or an investor? Well, the rule of 40 is essentially you take your year-over-year growth rate. Okay, so you could go as an agent, you could go, what's my year-over-year growth rate for commissions? For an investor, it could be, what's my year-over-year growth rate for profits, right? And you could just look year to date. So I'm recording this in September, and you could look, okay, last year up to the month of September, how much revenue did I have? And now this year up to the month of September, how much revenue do we have? What percentage growth is that? And then that's the number. So let's just say it's, let's say last year, and this is going to be really bad math, y'all, but let's say last year you had $100,000 in revenue up to this month year to date, and this year you have 120,000. So that's a 20% year over year growth rate so far. Okay, so that's good. So take that number 20. Now, the next part of the equation with the rule of 40 or rule of 60, if you're below 10 million in a software company, now these are software companies once again, right? Is your profits. Okay, so then you look at your profit percentage for the year, and then you take that number. So let's say that number is 40%. Okay, so you're 40% profit at the end of the day, net profit, and you're growing 20% year over year. That means you add those two up together, 20 plus 40, that's 60. And so when you're under a $10 million software company, but I really do think this applies a lot to non-software companies too. I think it applies to a wholesaling business, a flipping business, a real estate agent, the plumber down the street. I think it applies to all of them, because it shows that you need to have a good balance of growth and profits. If you're not growing, the company is likely falling behind in the industry and losing market share, which likely means you probably don't have your messaging down, which likely means you need to get your product right and things like that. And if your company's not profiting, it better be growing a lot. So let's kind of show what this will look like. And I'm going to use the rule of 60 for those of you listening. Okay, so let's say you've grown 20% year over year revenue. Awesome. You're pumped, right? That's amazing. And now let's say that your net profit is only 10% at the end of the day. That's a pretty stressful business to be in if your net profit's low. You're growing at a good clip, but not crazy high, right? Because if you add 20 plus 10 up, it's only 30, which means the company is under optimized. It's not as strong as it should be. So if you're a 10% profit margin this year, but you grew 40%, or let's say 50%, it's like, whoa, that growth rate is a lot. And 10% profit's okay at that point. Okay, because you reinvested profits into the growth of the business, and then you can dial the profits in later. Okay, now let's flip it around and say the other way. Let's say your net profit is 50%, but your growth is only 10%. Okay, so let's say last year, your income up to this point was 100,000, and now it's 110,000 up to this point. That's cool. It grew, right? We'd much rather have it that way than go backwards. But if your net profit is 50%, you did hit the rule of 60, which is okay. It just means that you're optimizing for profit, which is fine. Okay, it just depends on what you want out of your business. The big thing that can happen there, if you optimize for profit too much, is you end up buying yourself a job once again, because you're keeping so much of those profits to yourself potentially that you're not then taking that money to buy back your time. And so anytime I see a business that's in there, there's anomalies, guys. Like obviously if you're in the live event or in mastermind business or something. If you're in the mastermind business, y'all, your profits are probably pretty darn high, right? You're probably going to have 50, 60, 70% of the money that comes in. 80% of the money might be profit, right? But then what I would ask you is, okay, if that's the case, how much of that business is reliant on you showing up and growing it? How much of it's reliant on you and your time? And it might not even be a lot of time invested into it, and that's fine. That's the decision we have to make. If you're saying, you know what, I'm okay with having an insanely high profit margin and having me be a big cog in it because it only requires 5 hours a week of my time and it's worth the investment. Amazing. Keep doing that then. Okay. But look at the rule of 60. If you're under 10 million, look at the rule of 60 as a tool for you. Look at how much you grew year over year this past year. Look at what your profit is. Add them up. And if you're around the 60 number or over, you're a pretty strong, healthy business. It means you're optimized for both. You're 30% growth, 30% profit, right? Or you optimize for growth, which was, let's say 40% growth and 20% profit or more. Awesome. Okay. That's pretty good growth, or 50% growth and 10% profit, or 10% profit. That's good, but that's not very much profit at the end of the day. So you better be buying back your time and really stepping away and using that time elsewhere. And in the spot where that's okay is if your average income per hour invested into the business goes up, right? And here's what I mean there is if you're dialing profits down and you're used to working, let's say 40 hours a week. Let's say you're working 40 hours a week and it's a 50% profit business and you made $1 million last year. Okay. So $1 million came into the business, 50% of its profit. And that means $500,000 profit, and you're investing 40 hours a week into the business. Okay. That's great. But you have a job, you have a high paying job. So now let's say that you're going to buy back your time a little bit and that profit drops down to 20%. But now let's say your profit drops to 20%, same $1 million, so you're making $200,000 a year net to yourself. But now let's say it only takes you 5 hours a week. So rather than 40 hours a week, it only takes you 5 hours a week. You have full freedom to go do what you want to do, even pursue other business opportunities, because now you use the profits in there to hire a CEO or hire a COO or hire out those things that you're not, that you've been doing that you're not great at. And so if your average hourly earnings, let's look at your average hourly earning potential. I'm going to add up some math here really quick. Okay. Then I got to get inside and do my workout. So if you're working 40 hours a week and you're making $500,000 a year, let's divide that by 12. That's 41 grand a month. Let's divide that by 4. So 4 weeks in a month. And now let's divide that by 40 hours. Okay, so that's about $260 an hour. Okay, $260 an hour is what your time is being compensated at if you have a gross of $1 million and you're netting $500,000 and you're working 40 hours a week. Now let's look at the other example. Let's say that you're only making $200,000, okay, a year. But you're only working 5 hours a week. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Divide that down. That's about $4,100 a week. If I got those numbers right, that's not right. Okay, let's change. That might be. Let's change this. So basically, $200,000 divided by 12. I'm not a math wizard here, y'all. That's 16 grand a month. Now divide that by 4. Okay, that's $4,166 a week. And now let's divide that by 5 hours. Guys, you're now making $833 an hour. Okay. So in one scenario, your company grossed $1 million, you netted 500,000, you're making about $200 an hour. In the other scenario, your company grossed the same $1 million, you only netted 200,000, but you're only working 5 hours a week because you hired out roles to do those other things. You're making $833 an hour now. So you're actually quadrupled your hourly value for your time. By buying back your time and reducing your profits, but then that team is likely going to accelerate the growth. Okay, so your profits went down, but your growth is going to go up. Okay, so in that scenario of 50%, if you netted $500,000 on gross revenue of that, you're holding your business back because you are the cog to the wheel. Your profit is 500,000. Your growth rate might only be 10 to 20%. Right? So that's a rule of 60 or rule of 70 right there. But now let's say you dial your profits back, you hire a team, you get a CEO, get a COO, do whatever you need to do. That frees up an extra $300,000 to go make those hires. And those people are going to be amazing people who can drive the business forward. Let's say now your profit percentage goes down to 200,000, right? So that's 20%. Let's say your growth rate now goes up to 40%. You start to grow 40% because you're doing the things that you love the most and add the most value to the business. You have other people driving those things forward. And now you still have a rule of 60. You're netting 20, your growth rate went up 40. And so now next year now, if your company is grown 40%, the company next year does 1.4 million. Okay, now let's say that you net the same 20%. Okay, this is where buying back your time really gets in, guys. Let's say you net the same 20% at 1.4 million. Okay, times 0.2. Now that's 280,000. So you just got yourself an $80,000 raise. And let's say you still only work the 5 hours a week. You're up almost $1,000 an hour now. Okay, so now let's say the company, you want to dial profits up again. You want to dial it up to 30%, and you're okay with the 30% growth rate the year after that. Guys, keep doing the math. This is how you really grow that wealth, because now you can take the other 10, 20, 30, 40 hours a week, invest it in your family, invest it into a side hustle, go do something you're passionate about, build another business, okay? And so, guys, that's how you get freedom and also build wealth. So use the rule of 60. Okay, look at your growth rate this past year over year, look at your profit percentage, and then ask yourself, am I looking to dial up revenue? Top line growth because I'm looking to exit and sell it because that's the way that the business is valued at maybe in certain industries? Or am I looking to dial up profits? And you should have some sort of healthy balance between the two. You shouldn't be so dialed up for growth and low on profits unless you're like in a software company where you're going to be able to exit based off of a multiple of revenue. And you shouldn't be so dialed up on profits and low growth because then you probably bought yourself a job at that point that's high paying, but you need to use some of that money to buy back your time and have them grow the business without you. Okay, guys. So I hope you got some value out of that. And this is the type of stuff I talk about at Carrot Camp at a really, really high level. How do you buy back your time? How do you build a business of your dreams and win in the business and in life? Guys, go to carrotcamp.com, join the wait list for the next ones. And go follow me on IG, y'all. I talk about this stuff on Instagram, show you behind the scenes quite often. And this is the fun stuff. Generating leads is a vehicle to get you more income. This stuff here gets you more freedom. So guys, have an amazing, amazing rest of the week. Share this podcast with somebody that you care about today. If you know that there's an investor or agent out there that could really use this message, share it with them and say, you know what, heading into your planning this next year, I think you should listen to this podcast. So guys, have an amazing rest of the time. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Go to carrotcast.com for the full archives, and we will talk soon. Love you guys.